Hey everyone, welcome back to Eclipse Horror Stories, the place where darkness speaks and the light never stays for long. If you love true horror stories, creepypastas, and psychological chills, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss what's coming next. I'm on a mission to reach 1 million subscribers, and your one click means everything. Drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far the shadows of our stories travel. Thank you for being part of the Eclipse family. Now, turn off the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. I took the job at the gas station on Route 19 because I didn't have a lot of choices left. My last job ended when the place shut down and rent was already late. So when I saw the ad pinned outside the grocery store, night clerk wanted reliable pay, I called right away. The manager, a man named Mr. Lowe, didn't ask many questions. He just said, "Show up by 11 and don't be late." We closed the books at 12. The gas station was smaller than I imagined. 2 pumps, 1 flickering sign, and a narrow building that hummed like a refrigerator left running too long. Inside, it smelled like coffee and wet cardboard. Mr. Lowe met me behind the counter. He was tall, quiet, maybe in his late 50s, with a kind of tired look that said he'd seen too many long nights. He handed me a ring of keys, a clipboard, and a thin black binder. On the front, written in faded red ink, were the words, "Midnight Protocols." I asked what it was, and he just smiled a little. "Rules," he said. "They keep things in order. Read them if you want, but don't question them. You'll understand after a few nights." I thought it was some kind of safety manual. He showed me how to work the register, told me where the cleaning supplies were, and left before midnight. I was alone with the hum of the lights and the quiet ticking of the clock above the door. It felt peaceful at first. No customers. No noise. Just me, a cup of old coffee, and the sound of wind outside. Around 12:30, I got bored and opened the binder. There were handwritten notes inside, old pages yellowed at the edges, each marked with a number. Rule 1. Never step outside between 12 and 3 a.m. Rule 2. If a car pulls up with its headlights off, pretend you can't see it. Rule 3. If the phone rings twice, don't answer the third time. Rule 4. At 2:17 a.m., you'll hear knocking from the freezer. Ignore it. Rule 5. Don't check the bathroom mirror after 4 a.m. I actually laughed. It sounded like something from an internet story. I figured the last guy who worked here must have written it as a joke. But at the bottom of the page, in a different kind of handwriting, someone had added one more line. Follow them. They're not jokes. The wind outside shifted, making the old windows creak. I told myself not to overthink it. Still, every time I looked at the clock, I felt this strange pull to check the door, to make sure nothing was moving out there. The road was empty, dark, and endless. When the phone rang once, then twice, I stared at it. The sound cut through the quiet like something alive. I waited, and then it rang a third time. I let it ring for a few seconds, telling myself it was probably a wrong number or maybe Mr. Lowe checking in. But something about the tone, it didn't sound like a regular call. It was slower, heavier, each ring carrying a kind of echo, like it was coming from a long way off. I reached for the receiver anyway. Maybe I just didn't want to feel scared on my first night. The line hissed when I picked up. For a moment, there was nothing but static. I almost hung up, and then a voice slipped through the noise, quiet, close, and strange. "He's already outside." I froze. The voice didn't sound angry or threatening. It was calm, almost careful, like someone giving advice. Before I could say anything, the line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver, staring at the front door. Everything outside looked normal, just the dim light from the sign and the empty road stretching out into blackness. Then the security monitor above the counter flickered. For a second, I saw a figure standing beside pump 3. The screen was grainy, but I knew what I was seeing. The person was wearing the same jacket I was, same hood, same way of standing, one shoulder slightly lower. My first thought was that it was a recording, maybe a delayed feed or some glitch. But when I turned toward the window, there was nothing there, just the reflection of the inside lights. I switched the camera view back on the monitor, and the figure was gone. I stood there for a long time, trying to make sense of it. The wind pressed against the glass doors now and then, and every small noise made me jump. I told myself I was just tired, that maybe the camera caught an old image of me walking out earlier. But I hadn't gone outside. By the time the clock showed 3 a.m., I couldn't take my eyes off that monitor. I waited for something to move again, but nothing did. When Mr. Lowe showed up at 6, I told him what happened. He listened without saying a word, counted the cash in the register, and finally looked up at me. "Cameras glitch sometimes," he said. "Don't worry about it." That was all. No surprise, no questions. Just calm indifference, like it was nothing unusual. Before he left, I noticed a red mark on his wrist, like a burn or a deep bruise. When he caught me looking, he tugged his sleeve down. "You did fine," he said quietly. "Just don't touch the freezer door. Ever." He walked out before I could ask what he meant. That night, I brought coffee strong enough to keep me awake for days. I kept telling myself I wouldn't get spooked again. But at 2:17 a.m., something started knocking on the freezer door. Slow. Heavy. 3 times. The sound came in short bursts, steady and hollow, like someone knocking politely and waiting for me to answer. I stood behind the counter, staring toward the back of the store, telling myself it was just the compressor or pipes settling. But the rhythm was too deliberate. 3 knocks, a pause, then 3 more. I glanced at the digital clock near the register. 2:17 exactly. Rule 4 from the binder came to mind. At 2:17 a.m., you'll hear knocking from the freezer. Ignore it. I didn't move. The knocks grew softer, then stopped completely. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, tried to laugh it off, and poured myself another cup of coffee. I was halfway through my first sip when I heard it again, only this time, it wasn't coming from the freezer. It was behind me. A faint scraping noise traveled along the wall, moving toward the vent by the floor. The air from it was colder than usual. Then, just barely over the hum of the lights, I heard a whisper. It wasn't loud, but I could tell it came from right inside that vent. "Evan," it said, slow and drawn out. "You shouldn't have answered." I dropped the cup. The sound of it breaking snapped me back. I turned off the lights in the back room and went straight to the counter, staring at the door like that would keep something out. By morning, I was exhausted and shaking. When Mr. Lowe came in, I told him everything. The knocking, the whisper, the voice from the vent. He rubbed his eyes, muttered something I didn't catch, and told me he'd call maintenance. When I came in that night, there was a new sticky note on the counter. It wasn't Mr. Lowe's handwriting. The letters were thin and sharp, like they'd been carved with a knife. It said, "Check the mirror. See what's missing." I didn't want to. But the bathroom was small, and curiosity always wins when you're alone too long. The light inside buzzed and flickered as I stepped closer to the mirror. I looked tired, dark circles under my eyes, rough skin, pale from the fluorescent lights. Nothing strange. Then I smiled at my reflection just to prove to myself I was fine. The right side of my mouth lifted. The left side didn't move at all. It just stayed frozen, like the muscles forgot what to do. I tried again. Same thing. My stomach dropped. I leaned closer, breathing against the glass, watching the fog form and fade. My reflection blinked a second after I did. I stumbled back, hit the light switch, and left the bathroom door open. The mirror stayed dark behind me, reflecting something that didn't blink again. I didn't go back into that bathroom after that night. I tried to keep my eyes off the mirror whenever I passed the hallway, but every time the lights flickered, I thought I saw movement in that direction, like someone was standing just out of sight waiting for me to look. Around 3, I decided to call the number written inside the Midnight Protocols binder. It was labeled Gasco Corporate, though I didn't remember ever seeing a company logo anywhere in the building. The line connected after one ring. "Gasco Operations," a man said. His voice sounded distant, like he was speaking through an old radio. I told him my name, the store number, and what had been happening: the phone call, the knocking, the mirror. He was quiet for a few seconds, and I thought maybe the line had dropped. Then he asked, "Do you see them yet?" I frowned. "See who?" "The ones behind the glass," he said. "Don't let them switch with you." The call cut off before I could ask anything else. I sat there, the receiver still in my hand, trying to figure out what he meant. Behind the glass? Did he mean the window? The security monitor? I looked at the screen above the counter. It showed every aisle, every corner, empty and still. Then I caught something strange. For a moment, the reflection in the glass door looked brighter, sharper than the rest of the image. And in that reflection, I saw someone moving between the shelves. Same jacket. Same build. I turned my head toward the actual aisles. No one there. But on the monitor, the figure was still walking. I turned the screen off and unplugged the camera feed. I couldn't stand the thought of watching myself when I wasn't really there. When I checked the employee file later that night, there were 6 names before mine. All marked missing, with dates that went back more than 30 years. Each name had been crossed out in the same red ink that labeled the binder. By the time the clock hit 2, I knew what would happen next. The freezer started knocking again. It wasn't just 3 this time. It was longer, faster, like someone trying to get my attention. I wanted to ignore it. I tried. But then I noticed the sound had a rhythm. 3 short knocks, 3 long ones, 3 short again. I'd seen enough movies to know what that meant. SOS. I don't know what I thought I'd find, but I walked to the back room anyway. The door handle was freezing cold. When I opened it, a wave of air hit me so sharp it stung my skin. The freezer light flickered, and for a moment I thought it was empty. Then I saw him. He was standing near the back wall, half covered in frost, wearing my uniform, my name tag, my face, only older. His eyes were open, but they didn't blink. Frost clung to his lashes, his breath barely visible. I should have screamed, but no sound came out. It was like seeing a version of myself that time had forgotten, one left to freeze and wait for someone dumb enough to open the door. I stepped closer, shaking, trying to convince myself it was a mannequin or some sick prank. But the thing moved. Its lips cracked as it whispered, barely loud enough to hear. "They don't kill us," it said. "They freeze time." Before I could react, the light flickered once more, then died completely. I stumbled backward into the dark, my hand fumbling for the door handle. The air felt thicker, colder, and I swear I felt something brush past me, fast and sharp, like the air itself had shifted. When I finally forced the door open, I fell out onto the tiled floor. The lights in the store came back on, humming quietly like nothing had happened. I ran to the front door. Outside, the highway was empty, the sky black and still. but in the reflection of the glass, I saw movement behind the counter. Another me, standing exactly where I had been seconds earlier, staring back with that same half-frozen face. I turned around, no one was there. I looked back at the glass, and he was smiling now. I don't remember much after that. I think I fainted or maybe something else happened, something I can't explain. The next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through the windows. I was sitting behind the counter, head heavy, heart pounding. The world felt off, too bright, too quiet. Mr. Lowe stood in front of me, holding a new binder. "Rough night?" he asked, smiling like everything was normal. I didn't answer. He placed the binder on the counter. The cover said Day Shift Protocols in bold letters. I opened it, my hands shaking. Rule 1. When the night clerk arrives, do not make eye contact. He isn't you. I looked up, but Mr. Lowe was already walking toward the door. He didn't look back. The moment he stepped outside, a cold breeze swept through the store. I watched through the window as another figure, wearing my jacket, my name tag, my face, walked up the road and unlocked the door. He smiled at me through the glass, the same smile I saw in the reflection the night before. Now I work the day shift. The customers don't come often, and I keep my eyes on the register, not the windows. Every afternoon, just before I leave, I hear a phone ringing somewhere in the back. It rings twice, then stops. I never wait for the third. And every morning, when I pass my reflection in the glass door, I don't look too long. I've learned that it doesn't always blink when I do.